Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1219, 1219, August the 13th, 2020, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before I get started on the Spygate news of the day, I just wanted to respond to a question that somebody asked me in the comments section. I was asked if I could mention if a particular day I'm not going to do a video the following day. Yes, anytime I know that I'm not going to do a video the next day or something like that, I'll definitely tell you that. But there are going to be times when obviously I upload a video, it fails. That happens unfortunately more often than I'd like, but it does happen. Yesterday, for example, was a failed upload, and so it doesn't get uploaded till later in the afternoon. That's not something I plan. That's just something that happens, and I don't know about it until in the morning when I get up and see whether the video did upload or not. So I have to re-upload the video. Nothing I can do about that right now. That has to do with my service provider, and so I don't have much to do about that right now. There's always the situation where we could have a few days here and there where we simply have no news to talk about. Now, I would not know that until that day. I don't know the day before whether or not there's going to be Spygate news to talk about. So in the event that there just isn't anything to talk about, I don't know that until that day. So I don't know what to tell you there, other than the best thing to do, quite honestly, the best thing to do is to subscribe to my channel. Just click the red button, subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money. I won't send you any emails, anything like that. You just subscribe to my channel. And then what you can do is you just go to your YouTube homepage, look on your left-hand column, on the left-hand side, about halfway down, you'll see all the channels you subscribe to. If in fact there's a new video uploaded by one of your subscribers, there'll be a little dot to the right of the channel you subscribe to, and that will tell you there's been a new video uploaded. You can just click on that subscriber's name or channel, and it will take you right to their video homepage, and then you just click on videos, and you'll see the very first video in the top left-hand corner will be the most recent video upload. Another thing you can do is just to the right of the button that says subscriber or subscribe, just to the right of that there is a little icon which is in the shape of a bell. You can click on that bell, and that means that you will get a notification, which means when my video uploads, you will hear a little sound, and then you will look to your lower right hand corner of your computer, and you'll have a little message that will say so and so, in this case the seeker, has just uploaded a new video. So if you are having issues wanting to know if I've got videos uploaded or not, number one, subscribe. That way it's very quick to look and see. You can look and see if I've uploaded a video. If there's a dot next to my name, there's a video that you have not watched yet. Or click on the notifications bell, and it will tell you as soon as my video uploads. So those are the two things that you do if you don't want to go searching around all day long wondering if I've uploaded a video or not. And again, the only case I really can't do anything about is, you know, I go to do a video and I come home and I do my research and there's just nothing really new that's happened, in which case, you know, I wouldn't have known that the day before to tell you. I don't know to that day. Subscribe to my channel, click on the notification bell, and that's how you solve any issues with knowing whether I've uploaded or when I've uploaded or whatever. Makes your life much easier than searching around wondering if I've uploaded or not. There you go. I hope that answered your question. I also had a request from the person who runs the Truthification Chronicles website. I've had quite a few subscribers come over to my channel. I believe that she may have plugged my channel. I understand there's someone on, maybe one of her subs plugged me, and some other people came over from that site, which is wonderful. I have viewed that site quite a few times. It is one of my subscribers. And she asked me if I would return the favor by dropping the name of another YouTube channel that I watch, maybe not a lot of people know about. And I'll certainly try to do that, but to be honest with you, I do not watch a lot of other YouTube channels, to be honest with you. I don't have time You know, I spend so much time on my channel, mostly on my research, on what I do, and my job. I have a full-time job, and I have other things that I do. I'm involved in. So I'm not like a professional YouTuber. I don't sit around and make videos all day and watch videos all day. I am not a professional YouTuber. So I watch Styx Hexenheimer because he uploads early. He makes videos that are less than 10 minutes long. He tells you exactly what he's going to talk about, and that's what he talks about, and that's it. And I usually watch Styx videos during my lunch break at work. When I'm taking a lunch break, I'll watch 2 or 3 Styx videos. So I watch Styx probably every day, one of his videos. I used to watch HA quite a bit, but anymore I can't really watch too much HA. It's just not enough content there for me. I don't have time. I still like HA, but it's not content rich enough for me. I occasionally will watch, maybe on a weekend, I may watch a segment or something, but I really don't have time, for that kind of thing. I need content rich stuff. I'm looking for information, not to be entertained. And HA's an entertainer, and I'm not looking to be entertained. I'm looking for hardcore information on the story that I follow. I don't want the BS. That's why a lot of people come to my channel, because I don't do all that. I get right to the heart of the matter. Here's the story we're talking about. I give you the information, and I'm done. To the best of my ability. I do elaborate on things time to time, but I try to stay focused on the topic I'm on. I don't drift off into a million different things, or I don't just sit there and babble for 3 hours so people can click on my channel and make donations or whatever. I don't do any of that. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I don't have time to watch a lot of other channels. I like the Duran, and I watch them on the weekend sometimes. On a weekend day, I might watch a Duran episode if there's one I like. During the week, it's focused on the topic I'm interested in. But there is one guy out there that I do like to watch from time to time. Again, I don't have a lot of time. I don't know how many of you watch him. He's not a really large YouTuber. He's bigger than me, but he's not what household name YouTuber. But he goes by the handle Actual Justice Warrior. Actual Justice Warrior. I like his channel. I like his content. I think he does a pretty good job. And so if I'm going to be, I guess, plugging a YouTuber who some of you may not have heard of, I would offer you Actual Justice Warrior. I think he does really good analysis. He does political analysis, election analysis, Spygate, stuff like that. So I think he does a good job. I like him, and I do occasionally watch his stuff. And that's, really about it. Most of, I don't do my research on YouTube for my videos. I go to, like, news sites. I check the AP Newswire. I take a look at Breitbart. I take a look at Citizens Press. I go to sites that are like consortium sites where they have just like hundreds of stories, where I can just go down a list of titles of stories, and I'm looking for headline stories. I'm looking for headline stories that are about the topic I follow. Then I have a bunch of different Twitter accounts that I look at. Paul Sperry, Lee Smith, and all these. Papadopoulos. I look at all these Twitters, because a lot of times Twitter is a good way to just get a real fast comment, maybe a link to a story. So that's basically the bottom line on all that. Now let's actually move on. Spent way too much time on that, I think, but I wanted to be cooperative. Okay. So a lot of you probably have heard about this kind of weird interview between Hugh Hewitt and Ron Johnson. Now, I listened to the interview, and it got kind of heated, but I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. He was certainly challenging Ron Johnson, though, and I don't blame him. Basically, Hugh Hewitt was taking Ron Johnson to task over the same thing that we talk about here all the time, which is that he and Lindsey Graham and Grassley have been head of Senate committees for 3.5 years since Trump has been president, and they really have dragged their feet a lot on subpoenaing these criminals and doing their investigations or whatever. And of course, they all say the same thing, and I think there is some validity to what they're saying, which is, hey, they're dragging their feet. We're trying to get the documents, but we have to fight and fight and fight and fight. And if we don't have the documents, it makes us hard to have the witnesses, because if we don't have the documents, we don't know what questions to ask the witnesses. And of course, Hugh Hewitt was taking issue with that, and I can understand that. If I'm not getting the documents, I go ahead and call the witnesses anyway. And I try to get the information from them. And if I want to call them back again, I call them back again. If someday the documents show up on my doorstep and I have more questions, I call them back again. Or maybe I bring them in for a deposition. I understand why Hugh Hewitt was pushing Ron Johnson. But I think Ron Johnson did get himself into a bit of trouble when he suggested that there may be Republicans blocking him from being able to get witnesses, testimony, documents, or whatever, or subpoenas. When he suggested that, obviously Hugh Hewitt drilled down on it and pushed him on it for the entire rest of the interview. Name those Republicans. Who are those Republicans that have been blocking you? Give us their names. And it's at that point Ron Johnson was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm not going to give up names as my colleagues or whatever. And that's when Hugh Hewitt, see, there's the problem. Right there's the problem. If you don't tell us who they are, we can't get rid of them and replace them with people who won't block you. Now, we have a pretty good idea who some of those guys are. On the Senate Intelligence Committee, they're anti-Trumpers. Rob Portman being among them. Certainly Thune, I think, is one of them. Obviously Romney, Murkowski, Susan Collins. You know, there's quite a few never-Trump Republicans who would be in a position to block investigations and block witnesses and block subpoenas and things like that. But what makes this a little bit even crazier is that after the interview is over, then I think a spokesman for Ron Johnson comes out and makes a statement that there was a misunderstanding between Johnson and Hewitt, and that he really never meant that there were Republicans blocking him. Now, if you listen to the interview, clearly he suggests, and I think even says, I'm being blocked even by people in my own party or whatever. He clearly makes that clear. I mean, there was no misunderstanding there at all. It's perfectly clear, and if Johnson comes back on Hugh Hewitt's radio program, he'll play it back for him. There was no misunderstanding at all. Ron Johnson basically said, yeah, I'm blocked by Republicans. And so I'm not really sure why this... now, this was actually from a Politico reporter, so you can... I don't know, maybe it's true or maybe it's not. Who knows with Politico suggesting that there's no one blocking Johnson. That's not what Johnson told Hewitt. I listened to it. He definitely suggested that there were Republicans blocking him from getting subpoenas and various other things. And Lindsey Graham has suggested the same. We know Nunes and Goodlatte and Gowdy all have said the same, that they were blocked. Rodenstein, Ray. So we know all the deep staters are blocking. We know they do it to Judicial Watch. We know they do it to everybody. But it's different when it's members of Congress who are of the president's party. When they start blocking you, then that's, we need to know who those people are so that we can vote them out. That's what Hugh Hewitt was trying to get across to Ron Johnson. But he got very, very, weak when Hugh Hewitt started pressing him on that. Johnson did not want to give up the names, just like Lindsey Graham is trying to cover for the Senate Intelligence Committee. These guys all cover each other, and that's what drives you nuts. You don't know whether you can trust them or not. But the point Hugh Hewitt was making is dead on. These guys were the heads of all these committees since Trump has been president. You look what the Democrats have done during that length of time. They've ran the Mueller witch hunt. They ran the Ukraine impeachment hoax. They did the Kavanaugh show. They're doing this and that and the other thing. I mean, they have hearings all the time. The Democrats have no problem acting. But for some reason, Republicans can't seem to get moving, to get anything done, to issue subpoenas, to get people in there, to question them, to get documents. They don't seem to have the same success, you might say. And there's something going on with that. There's something going on. And when Johnson, or when Hugh Hewitt started drilling down on, why don't you get Comey and Brennan? Subpoena Comey and Brennan. You've had 3.5 years to subpoena Brennan and Comey. And that's another point where Johnson suggested, well, I got to be able to get all the Republicans to support that, and I don't always have all that support, and that's again where Hugh Hewitt starts going ballistic, and he's like, well, give us their names, and Johnson won't do it. But it appears from people who've done some research on this, they have found that that the authorization to subpoena Comey and Brennan, that Johnson and Grassley have had that authorization by their committee for a very long time, since at least the midterms of 2018. They've already had authorization to subpoena Comey and Brennan. They just haven't done it. And when pressed on that, that's when Johnson says, well, we can't call them in until we get documents. We have to know what to ask them. And Hewitt's like, no, you don't. Have me come over and question them. I don't need any documents. I already have a whole lot of questions for them. And I don't even need any documents. I don't got to wait for documents. And he's right. We don't need to wait for documents to bring in Comey and Brennan. I have plenty of questions just based on what we know now. It'd be nice to have some documents. But guess what? If they're blocking you from getting the documents, you can't do nothing about that, I guess. But you can sure subpoena Comey and Brennan. And there's plenty of questions you can ask them that don't require that you have documents. So I think Ron Johnson looked bad, and I basically like Ron Johnson, but, you know, I'm not impressed with any of these guys. Senate Republicans have done a horrible, horrible job. They've been the head of these committees now for 3.5 years, the whole time Trump's been president. What have they accomplished? Nothing. They've gotten a few documents released, but that's because of Grinnell, Barr, and our new ODNI, Ratcliffe. So, I don't know where this is going to go, but Johnson has been invited back on the Hugh Hewitt show to explain the misunderstanding, but there was no misunderstanding. I'm sure Hewitt will play the clip back for him. No misunderstanding. It was nice to see Hugh Hewitt, and I'm not a big Hugh Hewitt fan, he's a neocon, but he was definitely, holding Johnson's feet to the fire and asking him the question exactly a lot of us have been frustrated by. 3.5 years you've been head of the Senate. Powerful committees, Judiciary, Oversight, Homeland, Government Affairs Committee, Homeland Security Committee. 3.5 years. No open hearings, hardly at all. We've had Rodenstein and Yates, and they gave both of them a pass. Told both of them, we don't think you did anything wrong. We just brought you in here to, have a show. I don't think so. These guys suck. Senate Republicans suck. They've done nothing. Nothing. Other than what they have to do. Not because they want to do it. Because they're facing re-election. And they have to look like they're doing something. After 3.5 years of doing nothing. But they're all we got. We'll continue to follow up on this story. We'll see if Johnson comes back. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what John Durham would like to know from Brennan. This story that was put out by public broadcasting, no one's really believing it. I questioned it when I first heard it. Joe DeGeneva was just interviewed the other day, and he says he doesn't believe it. Nunes doesn't believe it. And it doesn't make sense. Why would John Brennan why would Durham call in Brennan just simply to get his take on some technical issues? I don't think so. I mean, that's not what Durham's doing. He's a criminal prosecutor. He's looking to prosecute a criminal case. He doesn't need John Brennan to advise him on technical things. That would not even be John Brennan's role at the CIA. John Brennan would have people at the CIA that would advise him on technical things. So Brennan wouldn't be the guy you go to. No, Brennan is still a target of Durham. I'm sure of it. So I didn't buy into that, and a lot of people are not buying into that. So let's just go ahead and move on from that. You can accept that however way you want, but I don't necessarily believe that reporting is correct. So, as you know, John Brennan had claimed for a long time, and still claims, that he had a secret source inside the Kremlin that confirmed Putin wanted Trump to win and he had intentions of making that happen. This is a claim that Brennan had made for a very long time. We know that he traveled to Russia during 2016. We know he traveled around quite a bit using aliases. Brennan was traveling around using aliases. And he claims that he's got this Russian source, or a source who's inside the Kremlin, which means he'd be a Russian. I don't think there's any non-Russians in the Kremlin, who had told him that Putin was absolutely working to get Trump elected. So, obviously, that's never been disclosed who that person is. And my guess is the very first question Durham's going to have for Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, is, okay, who's that source inside the Kremlin? Who's the source inside the Kremlin? That'd be my first question. Now, keep in mind, Brennan has not been able to review his notes because he lost his security clearance over 2 years ago. Durham's team has got all of Brennan's notes, his emails, his texts, his travel stuff. They know he traveled under these aliases because they got his travel records. So they're probably going to be asking him about his travels and why he used aliases. They'll probably be very interested in that. We don't know where he went on all those travels, but we definitely know he went to Russia in 2016. So that's certainly a couple things Brennan is going to be asked about. Certainly he's going to be Brennan is going to be asked about his take on using the so-called Steele dossier in the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment. That's certainly going to be an area that Durham is going to want to dig very deeply into, because there's perjury issues there for Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and Brennan, and Clapper, and Rogers, for that matter, because they were all asked about that under oath in congressional testimony. And we know what Brennan said. I think that Durham is going to want to ask Brennan very much about Halper, Mifsud, and Alexander Down the Hatch Downer. Halper, Mifsud, and Downer. Durham is going to want to know what Brennan knows about those three guys and whether or not he was involved in any way in putting those guys into the game, or if he knows who was involved in putting those guys into the game. And those are going to be some very tricky questions right there. I think that Brennan is going to be asked about those contractors who are accessing the database, the FBI's database, which is connected to the NSA database. They were using the FBI systems to access the NSA database. And it appears that very likely two of those three contractors would have been CrowdStrike and Confusion GPS. Both are known CIA contractors. So I do believe that Brennan is going to be asked about what he knows about the 702 queries by the subcontractors or contractors who are accessing the NSA database through the FBI systems. I think that that's definitely going to be a question he's going to be asked. And I think that those are the main 4 or 5 biggies that Durham is probably going to want to ask Brennan. And those are some difficult questions, especially when Brennan has not been able to review his notes or doesn't know what Durham knows. And Durham has got a lot of information that he's dug up over the past couple of years, so that when he sits down with Brennan, he's got a lot of information. If he's looking just to trip Brennan up in a perjury trap or something like that, that should not be very hard to do. Brennan's already perjured himself, so you don't even need to set a trap. You just need to get him to repeat the lie he already did one time before. So I think that that's something to look for. And again, I don't believe that the story that Brennan is no longer a target. I don't believe that. I think he probably is a target. We had quite a few stories pop up yesterday. Actually, it's multiple news sites reporting the same story. I'm not sure where the original story began, Everybody picks it up. You know how it goes. Everybody picks up the story and they run it on their site or whatever. I saw about 10, 15 different links where you could read the same story. And the story is basically that people who around or know Durham, or people in the know, suggesting that Durham will hand out indictments by September the 4th or not until after the election. Saying, well, if he doesn't do it by September 4th, then he's not going to do it until after the election. Now, that's because they believe that there's some so-called DOJ policy which says you can't do that. But I think Barr has made it pretty clear that that only relates to people who are running in the election, such as this would be either Trump or his running mate Pence or Biden or Harris. Those four would probably be off the table 60 days out from an election. But as Durham, or as Barr said, none of the people that they're looking at are amongst that group. They're looking at other people. And so there is no real rule. Now, I think that it's politically wise if you do not try to drop something like this right in the heart of the final stretch in an election, the last 2 months, that sort of September, October, September and October is the 2 months because you vote the first week in November. So I do think it's touchy territory, and I think Barr probably wise enough not to want to drop something then. Durham is not a stupid man, but we can't read his mind. But Durham understands, just as Barr understands. Barr has said, we haven't heard from Durham because he doesn't talk, but Barr has said when he was asked in the hearings whether he would delay Durham's taking action till after the election, he said no. No. He would not agree to that at all. And I think it's pretty clear Barr understands that we need to get some information about what happened. It needs to, the American voter, the electorate needs to know before they go vote again what happened in 2016. Barr understands that 100%. We've seen him ask about it multiple times. He gets it. Everything we've talked about here, how important it is, he gets that. He knows that. So does Durham. Durham knows one other thing, that if Biden were to win the election, that's it for his investigation. It would be buried. Likely, Barr would be fired and replaced with another attorney general who would then put the kibosh on Durham. Say, okay, thanks, Mr. Durham. Go ahead and give me what you got. Thank you very much. See ya. Your investigation's over. Into the shredder it goes. Over. Durham knows that as well. So, again, I think I somewhat agree with the statement, though, except for the part where either he does it by September 4th or he waits till after the election. I don't really think it's even there. I don't think he can completely finish his investigation by September 4th, but I do agree that if he doesn't do it by Labor Day, he probably wouldn't do it until after the election. I pretty much kind of agree with that. But I believe that he will come out with something before Labor Day. I don't think the whole picture, but I believe he'll come out with probably whoever he's been able to get in plea agreements. Plea agreements. People who've pled guilty. And then I believe he'll give us like an interim report. It's okay, well, we're this far into the investigation. We've had so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so plead guilty to these crimes, and they're currently cooperating. We have other witnesses. So this is the status of our investigation right now. We know this and this and this and these things happened. We know these things happened. We have these plea deals, and we're continuing the investigation. I think that that's what you're going to get. I think that that's what you're going to get. And it will continue on after the investigation, or after the election. I do believe that the most obvious person who is going to be copying a plea deal will be Kleinsmith. But I think it's very likely that this guy Stephen Soma, this FBI agent Stephen Soma, and this FBI analyst Brian Alton, I believe that they too are going to probably cop pleas. Because it appears that they took this, they interviewed Danchenko, and then apparently they forwarded a report to 2 FBI agents, and they misstated what they learned from the interview with Danchenko. Now, does that give other FBI people in Operation Crossfire Hurricane deniability or whatever? Because they can say, well, these 2 analysts lied about what they learned. No. Because these are not the only 2 guys that were involved in and getting to the bottom of this. That was the job of Strzok and Page and McCabe and the guys running that, and Comey and all those. It was their job to know. They're not going to be able to get away with saying, well, we were duped. We thought Steele's source was solid because the 2 FBI analysts who talked to him told us it was solid. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And there's too much other evidence suggesting that they all knew. But those 2 guys, I think, are probably going to cop plea deals. So I think that you got 3 probable plea deals right there. Kleinsmith, Alton, and Soma, I think, are solid plea deals before September the 4th. And then I think an interim report telling us where we are. It's probably what we're looking at. There could be more, could be less. But I do believe that something will come out before the election that will at least ways let the American electorate know that something what happened in 2016, an attempt to derail the Trump campaign, and then they spied on him afterwards, and that the investigation is continuing, and they've already gotten some plea deals or whatever. I think we're going to get at least that much, and that's what I would expect. Of course, we had this story that came out. I'm going to talk more about this probably tomorrow, but this story by Paul Wood. If you remember, it was Paul Wood who wrote a story very, very, very early on in this. If you go back to my timeline, you'll see very early on in the Spygate story, Paul Wood wrote an article. He's kind of a Christopher Steele supporter, I guess you'd say. He's, I assume, British. Comes out of the UK. I'm going to get more into his article tomorrow, I think. But there was just one thing that that he says in his article. It's a claim he's made, which I've never heard made before. But he claims in this article that Danchenko told Christopher Steele that he had met 3 times, had dinner with, and had met with 3 times Sergei Milian. Told Steele that he had met 3 times with Sergei Milian. The problem is that in his interview with the FBI, Danchenko told the FBI that he never met with Milian, and that the only possible contact he had with Milian was that he suspected that he may have been that caller who called him, and they had a 10-minute conversation where the individual does not identify himself. But Danchenko described him as being a Russian, but Milian's not Russian. He is Belarus. He's from Belarus. Danchenko, being a Russian, would certainly know the difference in dialect between a Russian and a guy from Belarus. It's a slightly different, dialect there. Slang. It's different, So he would have known that. So, as I said, I think Danchenko, I don't think he can be trusted, but neither can Steele. It's hard to tell, because Steele is such a liar, it's hard to know if Danchenko's a liar too. They're both probably liars. We know Steele's a liar, and I question whether or not Danchenko has these 5 subsources. I even question whether or not Danchenko was even a Steele's primary subsource, because he doesn't come into play until after Trump wins the election. Why do they wait until January to interview Danchenko? Right during the transition period, just a week or so, 2 weeks before Trump's getting ready to get sworn in. The first time about a week before, and the second time about 2 weeks after, they interview Danchenko. But not until Trump's ready to be sworn in. He's already won the election. They wait all this time. They have no interest in interviewing Steele's primary subsource only after Trump wins. Why would that be? Well, it's because they needed to cover their ass. They said, man, oh man, we're in deep trouble because this is all going to come out. When it does, they're going to find out that it was Steele. And when Steele gets squeezed, he's going to admit that really he just had people feeding him information and he was making the rest of it up. We got to come up with something. I think that's how they created this. I think Danchenko is part of the cover-up. I don't think his drinking buddies were sources. Come on, man, it's getting hard to believe. It's just getting very hard to believe. Well, it's my intention to do a video tomorrow. Subscribe, click on the bell, and you won't have to worry about looking around for my videos. Thank you. See you. Bye.